Go ahead and get registered today. If later on you don't need it, that's great. We appreciate that. But we would much rather know you're out there and have you say no later on than not know about you and have to scramble at the very end to keep you safe. Did that answer all of the questions? Probably more. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got one. See. Hello, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Jeff Corkill with the Sheriff's Office. I've been assigned on Boca Grande for about 3 years now. Fortunately, I haven't attended gone through a hurricane with anyone out here, and that's been 3 years. That's a good thing. I think Charlie was 04, was our last serious hurricane for this area. Again, I'm with the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and I kind of wanted to give you a glimpse into what we're doing at the Lee County Sheriff's Office as this is going on. Obviously, the EOC director here is very busy, and we're working closely with the EOC. We have 5 phases that we go through as this storm prediction builds and gets closer and more imminent for us. We have a partial activation alert. We have an incident management team that's working with EOC. They're tracking the storm. We're getting, if you don't mind the term, ducks in a row. Each district is manning up, getting supplies. Each district has to support itself for 3 days. All personnel are being alerted that this condition is in effect. Get your personal orders in line. And as that progresses, we'll go to a phase 2, which is a full activation. If we go into a full activation, all certified law enforcement officers are called in. We'll go to an A-B shift. So all personnel will, if you got 100 people, 50 of them will be working half the day, and the other 50 will be working the second half of the day, or day or nights if you prefer. But all personnel will be on duty. We're moving equipment, we're moving assets, we're taking care of ourselves to get all our assets to weather the storm. We might have to take them out of county, or we'll take them to shelter, vessels, aircraft. Also, hopefully everybody's personal things are taken care of, their family. This is also being done during this time. If the storm is imminent and evacuation takes place and everything like that, we're going to be out on the road assisting with directional movement, intersections. We'll be manning big intersections to assist with this evacuation. As that progresses, hopefully things go very well, and at some point when the winds do get to a certain level, which is 40 to 45 knots, which is close to 60 miles an hour, give or take, they're going to call us off the road. At that point, we'll be called to shelter. It could be, each district has their own shelter, and it won't necessarily be their normal district office. It could be a church. It could be a fire department. We've got one in South District that we use, but it won't be a general shelter. The Lee County personnel won't all go to a Lee County shelter. We'll have our own shelter. During this time we're not available during this time. So when they call us off the road for that, they're saying anywhere from 6 to 10 hours as that storm comes through, we are unavailable. You can call, but we're not going to be able to come. So all I can say is adhere to the evacuation process because of that fact. If you do somehow are able to get communications and you are in full distress, I mean, we've had vessels out at sea, we've had folks that come in sailboats that try to ride out a storm and have called, and we can't go. We don't go. With that, I know some of you have weathered storms. Just to get off topic just a little bit, but each storm has its own characteristics. Charlie was a very intense, strong storm, but it was a very small storm. In retrospect to compare it to Sandy recently, it was a very relatively small storm as far as the intensity level, but it was a very vast, big, slow-moving storm that pushed a lot of water. So if you combine those two and made one storm out of it out here, and we're on the wrong side of the eye, it's a really bad situation. I can't imagine what the storm surge would be, but it would probably be at our head level anyway. So just to get off topic, take it seriously. The category doesn't necessarily properly describe the damage that storm can do, i.e. Sandy, because it was a low-intensity storm. So as we ride the storm out, when the winds come down to a level that we can come back out, we will come out and start assessing damage. We're giving our reports to the EOC. We're working closely with the fire department. We'll assign generally one law enforcement officer to each fire department unit that's assessing buildings and for security, and to assist with that assessment. And again, we're just trying to see how much damage we have, opening up, help to survey what's the biggest hard-hit damage, i.e. big roads unaccessible for some reason, unpassable. We can start getting equipment to move those, and working with the EOC, which they've got their contracts and contractors in place to start putting those little fires out and get the infrastructure open and get that power going again. So, and again, we're still on that full personnel A-B shift. And at some point out here, we're kind of fortunate that there's only one way in, one way out. So the security, we can monitor that. The Chief's done a great job with the tags, those that are authorized to come in. It's a great tool. If you don't have a tag, you got an address, and you live out here, I'm sure we'd be able to work through it, but the tag is definitely the way to go. If and when the EOC says that it's safe for you to come out, because until they say it's safe for you to come out, we're going to restrict that. And then as things progress, we'll go to the stage 5, and we'll go back to basically our normal shifts and continue on in the recovery of these storms. We don't have a magic answer. The storm is going to be, if one hits, it's not a good thing. If you've been through one, you know it. If you haven't, you don't really want to. My advice would be, if I know 5-6 days out, I wouldn't want to be, just me, after being through a storm, I wouldn't want to be moving with the general evacuation. I wouldn't want to stay at the shelter if I didn't have to. Some folks don't have the resources. They don't have the money. I mean, the cost of those hotels, price gouging, it's not supposed to happen, but it does. And if you go out on the road and you try to find a hotel that costs $100 a night is going to be $180. It's not supposed to happen, but it does, and some folks can't afford that. If you can, make arrangements to stay with a friend, something like that, get out earlier. My question with the infrastructure, and there was, someone asked a really good question about the movement and being able to clear the area safely. I don't know how the gas will hold up. My question is the fuel. You get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the road. Not everybody's gassed up. I guarantee it. First thing they're going to do is hit that 7-Eleven, and it's going to be all the way up the interstate. I can't imagine what it would be like. But so my point is, if you can get out earlier, do it. If you need the shelter, like you said, a B, C, D option is there. Some folks didn't evacuate on the last storm because they had a canine or they had a pet, and they wouldn't go. I think there's been some arrangements made with pets now that some of the shelters take a pet. exactly how that works, but we didn't want people to shelter in place and, because of their pet was there and they didn't have a place for the pet. We didn't want that to happen. There was something, but I just, again, wanted to give you a glimpse of what we're doing. If you have any questions, feel free. Yes.
Okay, we understand, hang tag for the bridge, but what about people with ill intentions coming ashore in boats and such? Has that happened? And if it happens, how do you control for that, and what do you do?
Well, that is our job, and yes, we are interested in that, and yes, it does happen. We experienced it on Captiva, Sanibel Island, experienced some of that. I don't know out here with Charlie if there was much of that took place. It's a gamut of ruses and, chameleon-style people that will come in and take advantage of people right in front of them or otherwise, whether it's false contractors or these folks that go in under the ruse that they're a nonprofit and they're there to help in some form or fashion, and they're there to steal. And we did experience some waterborne activity that came onto land, i.e. Sanibel and Captiva, where people were victimized. I don't think it's a huge problem on the island. It's something that we're definitely prepared for and will combat. I'm not saying that we'll catch everybody, but we do know that potential is there. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater type situation either, because there's been some discussions about re-entry and who you let on and everything. This is a very simple situation for us to manage, this island. I can't imagine trying to manage a city, as far as re-entry or something like that. Could you imagine trying to tag everybody or have some sort of system that they would come through, and if they didn't meet that criteria, they would go? As a law enforcement officer, we're gonna critique that individual. If they look legitimate, they have a contractor's license, this sort of thing, we would probably let them through to get the infrastructure on. You've gone through a storm that's probably damaged millions, and if not in the billions, dollars of damage, and then to keep somebody out who's maybe trying to steal aluminum from a house that's partially destroyed. So that you just manage through it. Obviously, if there's theft, and we have arrested people like that have done that, by the way, but we want to make good decisions, manage the situation, get that infrastructure up as efficiently as we can, and we are on the team to do that. And yes, there are bad people out there that will try to take advantage of the situation, and we're there for that as well. Yes, sir.
How do you actually lock down the bridge when you call up the
This is the question. She's the director of the bridge authority. We don't have authority to lock down unless there was something in progress.
If there's a mandatory evacuation, the sheriff would be the one to determine if the bridge was going to be closed to vehicular traffic, and then Charlotte County would position a deputy at the bridge, and he would stop any traffic from coming onto the island until after the island was deemed safe and the bridges and the roadway are safe. So the bridge authority wouldn't close the bridge down. It would be the sheriff's department would make that decision, and then we would be there to support that decision.
actual station there, somebody.
Yep,
will also-
somebody's actually in a car there at the bridge. Mm-hmm. Okay. Someone back?
DOC is going to put that information out when they start opening these up. I would say their website is going to, if you monitor their website
And through the media.
in the media, that
Are you internet savvy at all? What we'll strive to do on the Boca Grande Fire website is put that information up.
And also, something that we didn't have as much of back then is almost all of the local media now has internet capability as well. So they're streaming a lot of their information in their websites. So you can actually go to local Lee County media or local folks in the area and get theirs as well.
Okay, my name is Rob Farmer. I'm the Director of Public Safety for Lee County. Public safety consists of 4 primary pieces: emergency management and the EOC, which we've obviously been talking quite a bit about; emergency medical services, which are provided here on the island as well as throughout Lee County. That's Chief Tuttle's. Dispatch, so fire and EMS dispatch for the county, which includes here on the island, and the 911 infrastructure and radio network that we're able to maintain all that as well. All of those fall under those are all divisions under the Department of Public Safety. Just a couple things I wanted to touch on in response to a few questions and kind of reiterate a few of the things. You've got 5 folks here that all are very experienced and leave me not a whole lot to say left, but just to reiterate a couple of things. One, that is, we like to stress over and over, it was asked about how we enforce evacuation. The important thing about a mandatory evacuation is simply what a few of them have touched on so far. The ultimate message of evacuation is, we recommend you leave. If you don't leave, you are on your own. If you decide halfway into the storm your house is flooding and you need help getting out, we can't come. If you're halfway through the storm hunkered in and your house catches on fire, we can't come. If you have a heart attack in the middle of the storm, we cannot come. When you call 911, we will put you on a list. And as soon as it's safe for our vehicles and our personnel to get back on the road, we will address those in order of importance, and depending on how critical each of those calls is. But during that storm period, once the winds, to answer touch another question, once the sustained wind speed hits a certain point, all of the emergency vehicles have to stay inside. You can't be driving. You've seen the ambulances, you see the fire trucks, they're big. They're like sails in the high wind. So at a certain wind speed, they just are not safe to drive down the road. So at a set sustained wind, those trucks stop responding. One of the other things that is important is we're not going to order an evacuation in the Emergency Operations Center unless we're pretty darn sure that it's necessary. What we don't want to do is call a bunch of arbitrary evacuations through the season so that you as a resident's like, ugh, here we go again. Nothing last time, it won't be anything this time. Sometimes that's hard to comprehend, as Gerald alluded to earlier. We may be calling for evacuation of the barrier islands in that Zone A when it's sunny out, because the storm just the rings have not gotten here yet, the outer edges of the storm. But we're counting on our weather forecasting, and we're planning ahead. One of the things about traffic control is our evacuations are called in zones. And the reason we do that, one of the additional reasons that we do that, zoned evacuation, is so that the people that live in A and the barrier islands have an opportunity to kind of get a head start before the mass of the inland starts to try to move as well. And that's another way that we've tried to temper that traffic flow during a large evacuation. So we never want anyone to think we're crying wolf. For those of you that were here for Charlie, you realize that the path of the storm changed very quickly at the last minute. And that caused a lot of people to change their mind and try to get out of town quick. We can only be so accurate. When was the last time you watched the weather on the news and they were spot on? Weather is very difficult to predict. Hundreds of years of data collected. I forget who told me this. Gerald, it might have been you, that made this analogy of hundreds of years of weather data collected, and we still can't tell if it's going to rain in an hour. That's unfortunately the truth. Weather forecasting for storms has become much, much better over the years. The technology advances quickly, but Mother Nature's still in charge, and our job is simply to predict and try to get you out of harm's way should that threat arise. So, does anybody have any questions at all for the Public Safety Division as a whole? Yes, sir.
I'm just curious how resistant the cell phone networks are in a high wind situation. Are they just all evacuated?
The commercial cell phone towers typically have a mediocre wind rating. And even if the tower itself is resilient, the directional antennas that sit on top of those towers, once we get high-level winds, start to turn and lose connectivity from one tower to the next. They are built to a certain standard, but they're only good for so long. Once a certain sustained wind comes along, it's certainly possible that system will go down. What all of the cell phone companies are getting very good at in an attempt to recover service to areas, because they realize how important they are, is all of the major carriers have portable towers that they're deploying towards a storm right away. And right after the storm, they'll be coming in, setting up, if they have damage to their infrastructure, they'll be erecting portable towers to get their systems back up as quickly as possible. Any other questions?
There was one question about sheltering in place and mandatory evacuation. Is it mandatory really mandatory? By statute, it is. Our policy is not going to be to come out and arrest anybody. Our policy will be to come out and have you fill out one of these forms that asks for next of kin. So that's what our policy will be. And our policy is not to arrest if we can avoid it. If it's a retail theft of $15 and we're still on patrol and the storm's probably 2-3 hours out before they call the evacuation, we're not gonna arrest him. If he's walking around, if he's just committed a homicide, we will. But we aren't gonna come out because people feel like they want to be in their home during that storm. Don't recommend that they stay, but we want to know in case something happens, what's your next of kin. So, but just thought you might want to know that.
I'm Kathy from the bridge. If we have constant winds over 40 miles an hour, we lock the bridge down to boat traffic, so that means no openings. And there's actually a giant lock that goes onto the bridge. We don't close the bridge to car traffic unless there's a mandatory evacuation and we're told by the sheriff that it's time to go. We go just like everybody else does. After a storm, we have an internal plan where we have two-man crews that come out and assess the bridges. They'll go under the bridges, they'll check the causeway, and then we'll determine that our causeway and bridges are safe for you to pass. We still won't let you on the island until the sheriff and the EOC says it's safe. So while most people get mad at the bridge because we're the people that'll be telling you no, we'll tell you yes when it's safe for you to come home. And unless anybody has any questions. Go ahead. Okay.
Who it should be addressed to. I was wondering if there are one or more volunteer sorts of roles that we can play with some training.
Oh.
Is there anything?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Actually, there are several volunteer roles that are available. obviously, we all know about people like the Red Cross. They're looking for volunteers. But I want to put our own organization, Lee County Emergency Management, the Emergency Operations Center. We have roles for volunteers within our organization. I'm not sure that you're in the CERT business up here, but there are other teams in the community. There are CERT, Citizen Emergency Response Teams, that work with some of the local fire departments. There are also professional or pseudo-professional organizations like the Medical Reserve Corps for people who have some degree of medical training but may no longer be in active practice or practicing their profession. So there are a number of volunteer ways to serve, and if you are interested, you can certainly, on our website, I hate to keep saying on our website, but there's volunteer information on the website for Lee EOC. Sure, the fire department can give you some of theirs. And since it's geographically responsible, I'll have to put in a plug for Charlotte County Emergency Management as well. It's a little closer than us, but we can always use the help. There are plenty of jobs to go around out there. Your United Way offices can also help point you in the right direction as well. I do not know for sure, but I can tell you that at best it would be for a minimal tropical storm is quite likely. In talking to the emergency managers in Charlotte County, the county is low and flat, worse actually than Lee is in a lot of ways. So they do not have a Red Cross certified shelter, Red Cross authorized shelter in Charlotte County. So if they have facilities at all or whatever they open will be as refuges and as limited access. But shelters in general, a lot of folks, especially if you come from somewhere else, you're used to your local school being a shelter. That is not the case in Southwest Florida. They may be, but it's quite likely that they are not because they are in the same evacuation zone that you are in. So don't assume that your local school, any local school, is a shelter. And Charlotte County, as does Lee, list our shelters in our documentation. But I will tell you that they will never, ever all be open at the same time either. So listen to that local